If you've been around my channel for a bit, you'll know that the pink donut is my logo and sort of like the mascot of Kerobyx. So I decided to pay this donut tribute by creating a giant pink donut with clay. In order to make this giant donut, we are going to need a lot of foil for the filling. It would have been so much clay to create this donut, and it would have been extremely expensive. And foil is only a couple dollars a roll, so it's a really nice alternative for a filling. I used this masking tape a couple different times throughout the process of making this foil donut, and it really helps to hold everything together in between these giant layers of foil. I basically just kept taking these huge sheets of foil and wrapping them around, wrapping it with some tape, and continuing this process until it got thick enough to cover with clay. I realized I had some of this model magic left over, and although this stuff is really terrible for actually making things with clay, it worked really good for some extra fluff for the filling. So I'm using the rest of this pack that I have just to bulk it up a little bit. And now we can cover that up with some foil to make sure it stays in place. And our donut is starting to look pretty thick, but not quite big enough, so let's keep adding some foil. I think that it's almost there, we just need a little bit more foil. And I would say this would be the final size before we start coating it with clay. So I'm going to be using this leftover clay, and a lot of this is very hard and old. It's very difficult to work with, but I think it will work pretty good for this. I've mixed it together and softened it as much as I could into these big sheets, and we'll just cover the entire donut. The issue I had with this though is that since there was all the foil on the inside, it ended up being pretty lumpy. We can try to fill in some of these dents and holes with clay, but first I want to try to smooth it out as much as I can, so I'm rolling it on the table to hopefully make everything nice and flat. And now our donut is ready to get baked. After baking, I'm taking some more clay to fill in all these different holes and cracks, and hopefully that will make the donut look a lot more smooth. And now our donut is ready to get baked again. After baking the second time, I took some sandpaper to help smooth everything out a little bit more, and now we're going to take some paint to cover the entire thing in tan. I was not going to use this much clay to cover the whole outside, so I decided paint would be a better option. Usually my experience with painting clay is that it takes 3 or 4 coats, sometimes even more, but this one surprisingly was pretty much perfect after 2 coats. So maybe lighter colors cover things a lot easier? For the top, we need some pink, some very bright pink for the frosting. I mixed together some pink and white to get this color, and I've just rolled it out into these big strips, and we can basically just keep placing these strips on until it covers everything that should be frosted. Instead of going for some clay sprinkles, I decided to go for just painting them on using some paint markers, and I think this will make things a lot easier. Now let's throw our donut into the oven one last time. After the final bake, we are ready to do the sprinkles. Like I mentioned, we'll be using these paint markers, and I started off by making these really small, skinny sprinkles, and then they just got kind of bigger and bigger as I went, and I had to go back and make the small ones a bit bigger, but I think this larger size looks a lot better. For a reference of what colors to use, I just looked around the room at the different pink donut things I have. You can see a lot of these on the shelf behind me in the beginning of the videos. Here is our final sprinkle on the bottom. And here it is, the giant Kerobyx pink donut.